Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List Unplugged. This is my Hidden Gem series, and I am very pleased to be welcoming Kevin to today's episode, whom I met on the Searchers podcast that he has with Christopher and Benjamin. Better known as what? Do we want to call them Zig and Giant? I guess that's
Yeah,
probably the
yeah. I used to call Ben Fezzik a lot of the time before I actually knew who he was. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
because his avatar
is Fezzik from The Princess
from
Bride. Yeah, and
Princess
then
Bride.
Chris. Yeah, everyone calls him Zig or Ziggy. But yeah, I don't think half the people who are following him on Letterboxd even know his real name still. So,
That's a good point. I have
but yeah,
only referred to him as Christopher a couple of times, and I'm sure that no one knows who I'm talking about. Although I've never called him Ziggy. I
never
don't
called him
know
Ziggy.
if
Yeah.
have you have you ever
No,
called him that?
well, before I knew his name, I always called him Zig. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah, yeah. hmm
That feels right. That feels
and
right.
then now
And
we're
then
part of the
Benjamin's
Searchers,
just
and Benjamin's just
I, y- himself.
himself, right?
Yeah, you guys have had how many episodes now? Like
Oh,
at least what, over
uh,
20?
over 20 definitely.
I'm
I
putting you
think,
on the
yeah.
spot.
Wait, what? Putting me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the
Oh
spot, and then
yeah,
I don't know, but I know you guys have been very prolific with your
yes, yeah. We're getting there.
content.
It happened quite fast when like I was considering doing something related to podcasting or radio or whatever because people kept telling me to do so, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to shy away from any of that because I really want to do it myself. And then Ben said that people told him that he should do it himself, and he contacted me, and then it just happened all of a sudden, and then we brought Chris along, and then it just took off from there. But yeah, I'm really not surprised, but really, thankful for the growing uh, success and listeners and downloads that we've been getting for the Searchers podcast, and yeah, it's been really cool. It's been awesome. Yeah, I love it.
And you guys sort of focus, I would say your central focus is on hidden gems on the whole, whether that was intentional or not, but you guys often cover movies that I've never heard of,
Yes.
as opposed to, blockbusters or super popular films.
Right. Yeah, we're not trying to cover movies that people are very likely to see or have seen. I mean, there are a few in that are popular amongst the movie loving crowd, but we
Hmm.
really do. That's part of why we're called the Searchers. Not just named after the John Ford, John Wayne flick, which the three of us really do love.
I was about
Um,
to say the three of you. Yes,
yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like us searching for films that are not only good but somewhat obscure, or films that people haven't seen, and we want to encourage them to check it out and live the experience with us, and make it feel like, hey, you're just there, like kind of listening to us, around a campfire, just talking about a film or hating on it if we need to.
It's very laid
Yeah,
back energy.
yeah,
It's almost like the way that Rio Bravo feels. It's like
exactly.
you guys are a hangout vibe.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
You felt that when you were a guest spot on our Ball of Fire episode, right?
I did. I was like, these dudes are chill.
hmm
They are not in a hurry,
Yeah,
and
we can talk a
it's
lot.
very, yeah, it's relaxing.
Yeah,
And then there's three of you too, which is an interesting dynamic. Because it's a lot more perspective than, you know, just like
yeah.
in this setup that I have, it's very different.
It's
Sort
very
of like,
different. Yeah,
yeah,
well, I
chilling with
think
your friends.
the funny thing is, like, we try to establish a structure, and then we end up
Mm.
talking. We end up talking a lot because I don't. I think that's a really good sign of good chemistry between the three of us. We can just talk and talk and talk. But we don't want to. Yeah, we hope that people find joy in that particular element of our show, of
For
of
sure.
podcasting. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it
So
could be a really good jump start into like, oh hey, those guys were fun to hear. I want to check out this film now. So
it's literally exactly what happened to me.
yeah,
I hadn't even met Kevin. I had never talked to Kevin, but
yeah.
I heard him go on about Ball of Fire for like half an hour, and
Mm.
I watched it that evening. So
Just
he was
convincing.
very persuasive,
Yes.
yes,
All I had to
and
do
just
was say
passionate.
Barbara Stanwyck and Ball of Fire, and yeah,
Done.
yeah. It's probably in almost every episode that we've done where I've name dropped her, or yeah, you know
And you're
that.
about to. You realize that, Kevin.
Oh, I
So,
did. I
yes.
did a few moments ago.
No, but you actually ended up picking a movie that she's not like a she doesn't star in, but she is in it. So
That's
I was
true.
like, of course he managed to.
That was kind of a surprise for you. I was like, I don't think you
I
know,
know.
but
No, I didn't. And I was like, "Oh, there she is."
there she is.
We can,
Yeah.
we can't have a Kevin episode without Barbara
Yeah,
Stanwyck.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's gotten to that
Yeah.
point now.
So we're gonna dive right into this,
Yeah.
and I'm very excited for what was Kevin's first pick because I had seen the remake of this movie without knowing at the time that it was a remake.
Yeah.
So when he suggested this, I didn't actually know that it was the original of a movie that I already loved,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
kind of special.
It's kinda special,
So
yeah.
so Kevin, why don't you tell us what your pick is?
So my first pick is Love Affair by Leo McCarey. And Leo McCarey, also known for The Awful Truth with Cary Grant and Irene Dunn. And the remake that you just mentioned, An Affair to Remember, with Cary Grant and forgot her name
Deborah
already.
Kerr.
Deborah Kerr, yeah. And
Mhm.
I I knew about that movie myself, but I didn't know that it was a remake. And when I heard that was a remake of Love Affair, which was also by Leo McCarey, a buddy of mine who I know is probably more of a cinephile than I am, told me, you should check that one out, and I did, and loved it from the get go. And so I think my experience might be uh, just a bit different from yours and many others because it seems a lot of people have seen An Affair to Remember without the remake. For me,
Yes.
Love Affair was my first experience, so watching An Affair to Remember might be pretty interesting for me. Uh, but Love Affair, yes, the original is a true delight.
I was about to say a
Real
true
delight.
delight. Yes. And the remake is it's not exactly shot for shot, but it's very, very, very similar.
Very similar. Oh,
Um
okay, okay,
yeah, if you watched it now, you would know every single thing that's about to happen.
yeah.
So it's almost like it's interesting when directors do that because Haneke also did that with Funny Games, where he did a shot for shot remake of his the original.
Mhm.
So that's very I find that fascinating when a director will remake their
Remakes.
own film
Hmm.
like years later.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like what DeMille did with Ten Commandments when he remade that in '56 with Heston and Briner, and yeah, it's odd, but I mean, if you find something new, if you remake something, not strictly for profit, I mean, well, okay. I mean, in the world
Why
of
not?
reboots and remakes and sequels nowadays, I mean, I think when you look at it back in the day, it seems a bit more substantial. I mean, that might be maybe that might people might think that's ridiculous to say, but I think that's I don't know.
Hmm.
You think so, Amy? I don't know.
I think so.
You
I
think
think
so?
so.
You think
It
so?
makes
Okay.
sense, and I think that the perfect person to remake their own thing is themselves. I mean,
Yeah, exactly,
if
exactly.
you're
Mhm.
gonna be the closest to it, and you're gonna have a vision for how you want to improve upon it or what you want to do differently than perhaps you did
Right,
originally.
right. Mhm.
So, let's assume,
Uh-huh.
even though I don't know how many people there are, that no one has seen either one.
Yes.
How would you describe this movie to them, to someone who's never seen it?
Someone who's never seen it.
Yes.
Yes. Um, so the title is Love Affair, but don't think that it is a film about, two people who find themselves in this sort of lustful state.
Sorted.
So yeah, exactly. It's nothing like that at all. Uh,
Mm.
think of it as wow. You really got me there. How do I do this? Uh,
Kevin,
yeah.
you do have your own podcast, so the standard has been raised.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. You got me. I
Will they meet on they meet on a boat.
yeah.
They're both involved with other people, but they're not married,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. They're not married. I was gonna say
Right.
that think of it not as a love affair between two people, but one man's love affair with the embodiment of morality. If
Whoa.
that's a good way to say it, you think that doesn't that make sense, Amy?
No, please
No.
elaborate, Kevin.
Okay, so going back to what you said, it's two people who meet on an ocean liner on the way back to New York. So you've got Michel Marnet, who is this French, he's a rich man. He's never worked a day in his life, except he's got a talent for and a penchant for painting. Uh,
Mm.
he's like like the the male Kim Kardashian, if you want to say that, and he just doesn't do anything in his life. And then you have Irene Dunn's Terry McKay, who is a woman. She's a songstress. She's a singer, and she had gone through her life, with that occupation. So they meet on an ocean liner, but they a lot of flirtation happens, a lot of sexual tension here and there, but an affair never happens. They just realize that there's an attraction between them, and they make a pact that in 6 months, if this feeling still exists between us, then we meet at the top of the Empire State Building and we decide to get married. And it get so I'll talk about one particular scene
Sure.
during that. So during their journey all the way back to New York, they stop at a country, and Michelle has this. He has a sweet old grandmother there who lives right by a chapel. Like how convenient! Like a chapel right. It seems to be like somewhat connected to her home.
Part of her house.
Yeah, part
Mm.
of her house. And so as I said, Michelle is just he's just kind of this gallivanting socialite, and he's just had plenty of affairs with women, and it gets to a point where him and Terry meet his grandmother, and then a sense of morality kind of gets infused into Michelle at that point. And Terry goes into the chapel. Michelle's grandmother allows her to, and then Michelle decides to join her. And it's in that particular scene wherein you see images of the crucified Christ. You see the Virgin Mary, and you see Terry kneel down and pray, and then Michelle looks at her and looks back at the statues, and from then on, it seems like that's a turning point in Michelle's life.
Mm.
For the rest of the film, it seems he doesn't really seek to have affairs with other women. He seeks order and true love with Terry. And by that I mean the true love affair, that the most substantial love affair that he will eventually have will be with Terry, who is the embodiment of morality. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that you sort of touched on this in
hmm
your review
yeah,
of the
yeah,
film. Now that
I
you've
did.
said that, I'm remembering what you wrote.
Hmm
Um, and there's also sort of, I guess you could say, kind of a sanctification process because he is uh, also trying to become a better person. Like he
Yes,
wants to go
exactly,
back to work. He wants to
exactly.
return to his painting and his passion. So this isn't just some fling
No, it's not a fling at all.
or
Yeah,
right, or like a
exactly,
temporary high. This is like,
exactly.
"Oh, I wanna change my life, not just for you, but because I wanna be better so that when you're with me like, I don't want you to be with me until I am."
Exactly. Yes, exactly. See, like when you think about
So
the title Love Affair, you would think it's a story about a fling between two people,
mhm,
and it's not. It's not that at all. It's the complete opposite of
yeah,
that. And I think that's
right.
the not well, I guess you could say it's kind of a twist, or it's a form of spontaneity for viewers. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that this is what I was running into. And
Mm,
yeah, I didn't realize that was pretty much what I was running into myself when I first saw this film. I thought it would be, I didn't even think about it being a fling. I just thought it would be, like this really simple, like romantic or screwball comedy. And it's a lot more than that, and that's something that I like
right.
about Leo McCarey as a director. Uh, there are these sort of surprises in addition to what the I'm not really familiar with this director's work, but Jean Renoir said that I might be butchering his name already, but he
No,
said,
that sounded good to me.
"You think so? Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
as long as it
Jean
sounds good to you,
Renoir.
Amy." But yeah, he said I don't want to butcher your show, but he said that
Sure.
that McCary had this. He just understood humans. I can't remember the exact quote, but he just
Mm.
understood humans, and I think you could kind of see that in his body of work of The Awful Truth or The Bells of St. Mary's
And
with
Make Way for
Make
Tomorrow.
Way for Tomorrow is I
Yeah.
think that one when you look back at it, it's very, very dialogue heavy. I think it's not as in tune with, human emotion or like you just as opposed to Love Affair. Love Affair has like, moments when you don't really need much dialogue to sell a point. You just need to see human emotion, human reaction. And I think
Right.
McCary perfects that along the way from his filmography because Make Way for Tomorrow was, I think, early McCary.
Early.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong about that. But then as time goes on, and you see what he can do. It's pretty magical, honestly.
So how did you stumble upon this? Somebody just told
Y-
you about it and
yeah.
then
So
you just happened to watch it?
exactly. So I'll name him right now. He's a college buddy of mine. His name is Cal, and
Mhm.
well, it was one of those days where it was one of the Criterion Collection flash sales, and I told him, okay, well, which one should I get?
Ah.
Which one should I get? And for some reason, the the cover for that movie for Love Affair was Charles Boyer and Irene Dunn just looking at each other, and I'm kind of a sucker for you know this already. I'm a sucker for like the old like Hollywood golden age stuff like that.
Yes.
And I saw that, and I thought something about it just intrigued me. And I saw that it was Leo McCarey. I saw that it was Irene Dunn.
Irene Dunn.
Yes.
Mhm.
So another
Yeah.
name besides Barbara Stanwyck that'll probably be mentioned from time to time.
Mhm.
But Cal told me, yeah, you should check that out. And he told me, like you, that he's actually a fan of An Affair to Remember.
Yes.
Uh, and that was when I learned that. Oh, okay, so Love Affair is the first one. So I got it, and then I watched it, and yeah, then and story
S-
goes from there.
Do you think that I would say the reason that this is a hidden gem
Hmm.
from my perspective is just because it's so much less known
Yeah.
than An Affair to Remember.
Yes. Hmm.
But have you noticed that like it's what do you think is it about it that makes it underseen? Do you think it's
Underseen.
just because yeah, like because more of his movies are more well known or it's just because it's not generally associated with An Affair to Remember, so it's like it's just not
I
talked
think
about very
I
much.
think so, and I think plenty of factors are involved. And A Fair to Remember seems to be remembered because Cary Grant is the leading man, and I think Cary Grant
Right.
he's got the ability to sort of overshadow anything that's around him. So I think
Mhm.
that helps out a lot with the popularity factor. Besides that, I think McCary, that's later McCary, and I think when as you keep going down the line, movies like that get more, they're kind of thrown out into the ether, and they're more well known. And also Love Affair, I think the prints were well. This might be a poor excuse, but I mean, many prints of films were lost over time. But Love Affair was one
Mm.
of those prints that were lost, and it took a long time to get it restored. So factors like such as that, I think that's probably why an Affair to Remember. No, sorry, Love Affair was not not as popular, and it should be. You know,
Yeah. No, I thought it was better, and
you thought it was better. Yeah, yeah.
I loved the remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, and I thought that he was better than Cary Grant in the more serious
Ooh, you
moments.
think so? Yeah,
Yes,
definitely in the more
especially
serious
at the
moments.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the end.
Uh
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and then the chemistry, which I'm just a big chemistry person. This is something that was true in
yeah.
Ball
So
of
am I.
Fire. This is
Yeah.
if you can feel that sort of electricity, and it's right away with these two. Like
Mm-hmm.
just right when he's saying like, "Can you pick that up?" and she's like, did you say something?" That
Yeah.
whole thing. They just have this
I was gonna
very
mention that too.
natural, yeah, banter
Yeah.
about them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of, well, before we started, we talked about impromptu stuff. So McCary, going back to that and what I said initially about him understanding humans, he was big on improvisation, and I would like to assume that those moments where Irene Dunn goes, she thinks that uh, Michelle said
He's
something,
about
or
to say something.
yeah, and she's like, "What?" That
Right.
happens a lot in real life, and I think
Mm.
McCary sort of just added that particular, human proclivity, and it it brought out a charm, like a really really strong, lovable charm, and it's like I can be enamored by that and also kind of relate to it because that's stuff that happens in real life. So yeah, like
And
I
they have kind of a natural ease as well. Like,
yeah.
when these people first meet, he goes to her room because
Yeah.
her mother told her never to go to a man's room.
Yeah.
So he goes to hers,
Uh-huh.
and then they have this conversation. You're like, "Oh, you're with someone? Oh yeah, and you're with, yeah." There's
Hmm.
this like um e- ease
Yeah.
and
So he's the fellow.
relaxed. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then they, when they get letters, it's like, "Oh, is that from, yeah, is that,
It's so
I just
simple.
love that." Yeah. It's like small touches,
Yeah.
um
Uh-huh.
that they have, and it's all throughout, so you can literally, it's very visceral, you can
Mhm.
feel that kind of
Exactly.
energy happening.
I think it also helps too because I know I read somewhere. Well, this is the only Charles Boyer and Irene Dunn have done other movies together, and I
Mm.
think this is the only one that I've seen so far. But I really want to check out other ones, even if they may not be as good as Love Affair. But I think the two actors they were good friends in real life and they really enjoyed working with each other. So
Mm.
just based on that, the chemistry is really really natural. um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
but I do love those small moments that you mentioned. Those are, yeah, those are they're so. It's an example of less is more, and I'm pretty big on the less is more factor. And if you can sell that really
And it's
well,
either there or it isn't. It's kind of like, right when you turn it on,
mhm,
I always know within the first, I don't know, 30 seconds of watching two people
mhm,
whether there's romantic chemistry or not. You can
right?
just see it.
Oh, you have that gauge. You have that instinct.
Yeah.
You just know.
Yeah, right? I feel
Yeah,
like we all do to varying degrees, but
yeah, I think so
especially
too.
with, yeah, with these kinds of movies, and it's not necessarily, like you would need it for like a femme fatale sort of thing,
Hmm.
like noirs
Yes.
and
Yeah.
erotic thrillers, stuff like that. You kind of need a different kind. This
Exactly.
is more of an innocence,
An innocence.
but
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
still, it's kind of wholesome, like you said,
Exactly. Wait, Amy,
the whole morality
have
part.
you seen Remember the Night with? Well, okay, well, I dropped it again.
I
Well, there we
haven't.
go.
There you go,
There we
Kevin.
go. Barbara
That's
Stanwyck.
that's the one that you guys talked about, yes. And
Yeah,
that's was that Fred McMurray too,
yeah.
or am I wrong about?
Fred
Okay.
McMurray. Yeah, I was gonna mention because it was really interesting when you mentioned like you need a different chemistry with noirs or erotic thrillers, and with the
Femme
innocent.
fatale energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And people know that very well with Fred McMurray and Barbara Stanwyck in Double Indemnity.
Double indemnity.
But on the other hand, when you look at them in Remember the Night, that's more of an innocent. That's definitely more of an innocent kind of romance. Nothing like Double Indemnity, which people are very much attuned to. But yeah, like I think that's also really amazing when two actors who uh, they can they can portray chemistry or romance in a very nuanced way. There's a strict dichotomy between Remember the Night and Double Indemnity, and the chemistry between noir and a romantic comedy
Just a
work.
drama,
Yeah, drama. It works
or
so
yeah.
well, and it's complex, but just the fact that two actors can make it work in different ways, it's like, hey, that's quite something. I like
I
that.
agree.
I like that. Yeah.
The Lady Eve is another good one if we're talking about Barb's. That's
Yeah,
another
yeah.
good one
I've seen that
with
one
Fonda.
once, but I need to rewatch that one. Yeah, it's a
Rewatch it.
huge, huge Barbara Stanwyck vehicle. Uh,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, more so.
Yeah.
She overshadowed Henry Fonda in that film, like by a ton.
And if he weren't playing such a dunce, I think that would have been a problem. But
Yeah,
because his character is just so clueless, it's almost like it's okay that
yeah,
she just completely just takes over every single scene
yeah,
because he's supposed to be completely
yeah.
oblivious and just like weak at the knees the whole
I
time.
can relate to that. No, well,
Yeah. I was about to say this is a good segue.
yeah,
So watch Love Affair,
yes,
1939, Leo McCarey.
uh huh,
We're going to segue into Kevin's second pick, which does have a cameo
yes,
from Barbara Stanwyck,
that's true.
um, called Hollywood Canteen,
Yeah,
which is from 1944, Delmer Daves.
hmm,
This one I had never heard of in my life.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
Kevin introduced me to something completely new. Um,
yes,
Give us a little bit of background about what this even is, because I have since learned what the Hollywood Canteen
yeah.
is, but
Hmm.
like, tell us what that was based on.
So, yeah. So before I get to that, I want to mention Delmer Daves wrote and directed Hollywood Canteen, and I think it's also I didn't even know this until last night when I was kind of reviewing a little bit of it because Delmer Daves was a co-writer on Love Affair. So
Wow, Kevin, and you didn't even
I
know.
didn't even know until last night. I know, right? Isn't that meant to be? So,
Fate.
fate.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you know that. So then
Yes.
it was a really cool transition from Love Affair to Hollywood Canteen. So this is a, you know, there's the connection from Delmer Daves. So Delmer Daves wrote and directed Hollywood Canteen, and that's based on an actual canteen or an entertainment joint in Hollywood that I wish still existed but no longer does. And it
Mm.
was many Hollywood actors. I think Betty Davis was president of the
One of the
Hollywood, one of the
founders.
founders. Yeah. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
the whole mission of the Hollywood Canteen. It was a charitable organization. It was a form of charity in which Hollywood actors, producers, anyone associated with the industry back in the day held an organization. They created a joint in which servicemen around the world can go in and because of their service and their their rank, their uniform, they get free food and drinks and entertainment. And it's a that sounds like Kevin to me if I were a serviceman. If I was in the military back in the day, just to
Right.
go there and get served by Barbara Stanwyck, uh,
And
w-
other
and
Hollywood stars.
exactly that would have been a real dream. And they're just there treating you like your family, treating you like you're one of them. It's their way of giving back to servicemen. And
Right.
then Delmer Daves turned it into a film wherein you get to see that in, of course, a more, you know, dramatic kind of form. But Hollywood
It's
Canteen,
it's almost it's almost like a documentary
in a
in a
way,
way,
yeah,
isn't it?
in a
Wouldn't you
way,
say?
it's like a documentary with a lot of flair to it. With
Yeah.
it's a time capsule of a film, was what a lot of people like to say. It's almost like you drop in time and you see all these famous people there, and then once it ends, it's like, oh well, look, the magic's over, and it, yeah,
Yeah, the it's almost like this isn't really plot
no,
driven, I would
no,
say. I mean, there's like bare bones plot where we're focused on these two guys that are in the
yeah,
army, and you're kind of following them along,
uh
but
huh,
then like there's just all these various acts, uh
exactly,
like people coming in and doing a song or doing a dance,
yeah,
and then you're going to know who those people are, and
yeah,
they're all referred to by their real names.
yeah, playing
So like
themselves.
Roy Rogers shows up
I
and
love
then it's like, "Oh, hey."
Yeah, Roy Rogers, "Don't Fence Me In." That song's been stuck in my head for a while. Then the
Yeah.
Andrews sisters come in and they do their own rendition of "Don't Fence Me."
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
I don't it's kind of hard to describe, but yes, it's about two servicemen. One who kind of looks like a young James Stewart, and
Mhm.
he's known as
Yeah.
Slim. And he,
Slim.
yeah, and then he's out there fighting in the Pacific, and he hasn't heard from his girlfriend, who apparently has a strong resemblance to the actress Joan Leslie. And then he gets the opportunity, him and his buddy, to go and take a vacation away from fighting in the war, and they go to Hollywood and they spend a lot of time there. And then Slim stumbles into the Hollywood canteen, and
Mm.
then he meets Jane Wyman. He meets Barbara Stanwyck, and which unfortunately is a very very minuscule scene, and I wish she was in it a lot more, of course.
But
Um,
it is very memorable,
oh,
Kevin.
very very memorable. Yeah, I related to
Yes.
Slim in that moment. I was like, that's literally
Yes.
it's talking about literally me characters. I mean, that's
That is him.
yeah.
And really actually the whole I feel like the whole aura
Hmm.
of the film is that sort of starstruckness.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like every time they see somebody that they recognize, they're just so enamored and you
Mhm.
get that sensation all throughout where it's like, "Oh my gosh, like I watch you all the time and now you're standing in front of me and I
Yeah,
don't know what to say." Like they actually talk that way, like a
exactly,
normal person would react. So it's
exactly.
very unique in that sense.
Exactly, right?
It
Yeah, super
yeah,
unique in that sense. And
yeah.
it's like a little love letter. Well, not really a love letter to the Hollywood canteen. It was like a love letter to that age of Hollywood, and a love letter to servicemen. And it's an interesting film, and people call it, like, propagandistic and patriotic. Okay, sure, but
Mm, yeah.
I found something magical in that, because it's not often that you get, well, not often, you don't get a film like that anymore. Speaking of like the
No.
most generic term, where they say, they don't make them like this anymore. Um, that was something else. And uh, a super happy ending with, well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just go into, like,
Too late,
yeah,
Kevin. Too
well,
late.
yeah, but too late. Yeah. Well, maybe I can save myself. But basically, Joan Leslie. So as I said earlier, Slim had a girlfriend who w- did not write any letters to him when he was away, and apparently she, as he said, she has a resemblance to Joan Leslie. He goes to the Hollywood canteen and meets the real Joan Leslie, and then gets the opportunity to kiss her. And then eventually they strike a real romance, and then he meets her parents, and then it's like, oh, this is what a fairy tale,
Mhm.
what a real
Yeah,
fairy
and
tale.
he's just she's so cute too. I
Oh
mean, she's
gosh,
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh. Talk about like
I'm gonna faint in a few
uh,
moments.
I I know. It's just a perfect face, really. And
I know, yeah.
it's impossible really not to sort of get like relate to him and get lost in this whole thing. And
Exactly,
it's I would say the film's greatest strength is that it has that immersive quality to it,
exactly, yeah,
where you feel sort of transported
yeah.
into into that time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. And looking at both Love Affair and Hollywood Canteen, I don't know. There's just something, as opposed to, say, colorized film. There's sort of an honesty about black and white, and really,
Mm,
there's like I don't mean this is a bad way, but like a stagnant twinkle in the eye when you watch a film like
mm,
these, where it's, I don't know. There's something genuine about it. There's something earnest about these old films, and it's not
mm,
something that I find that I can't really find it nowadays. I can't find anything that I can relate it to nowadays, and
mm,
I think they're embodied so well in both Love Affair and Hollywood Canteen. Plenty of other films that embody it as well, but there's just something about the lens. There's something about the way characters look, or the way the camera captures characters, that it just feels
mm.
so. It's hard to describe. I don't honestly.
It's almost like it feels fresh
Mhm.
and clean,
Yeah,
almost like it's old, but it feels new.
yeah,
It feels
yeah,
different
yeah.
than what it is now.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, and people are very sincere
exactly. Yeah,
and
that's a good way to say it.
open.
Hmm. And I have friends
like
who are like,
unguarded.
yeah, I have friends who are like, black and white film. Like, come on, just like
Oh, goodness
don't
gracious.
let
I
don't
don't
let
know
that.
how you could have friends who are like that,
Uh,
Kevin. That is the most of what you watch by far.
most of what, yeah, looking back at it now, yeah, that is the most of what I watch.
Mm,
It might be a
yeah.
problem.
No, it's okay.
It's an
I like the
addiction.
old school sort of
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very I don't know, it just really feels like invigorating to
Mhm.
watch in certain aspects, and there's sort of a glitz glamour feel to
Exactly.
everything,
Exactly. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
things were just more beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's amazing how you can how just how amazing things looked in black and white, even with the aspect ratio too. This I might sound like a newbie watching black and white films, but I know not really. But it's just
Mm,
there's something intimate about it. I think that's also another good word to use. There's something
yes.
intimate about it, and also just with the black and white and the aspect ratio, just kind of consolidating the character in the frame. There, yeah, it's just intimate. It's something that I strikes my fancy in a way. You know.
Strikes your even that phrase is like of the times.
Yeah. I
Kevin
should say
Kevin
swell too, that's
has
fair.
yeah, Kevin is really from the past
Yeah.
and he was frozen
Yeah.
and now
This ain't
he's
my
come back,
this
but
ain't
he
my
was
era. I don't know what I'm doing here, you know?
you look good for being born in the
Oh,
40s.
well, thank you. That means a lot, Amy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like an old soul, in the
Yeah.
modern era.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Mhm.
but I think it's very endearing, and to see it now uh is a good jolt.
Mhm.
I think that both of these are good hidden gems to see if you're kind of tired of the same old the
Yes.
stuff that you see now. I think this is a good double feature, especially
Very
because they
much
go
so.
hand in hand together.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you think it was a good double
Yeah.
feature? Yeah, because when I was choosing the films, I was like, man, which one should I? Like, I know Love Affair, and then I saw Hollywood Can't See, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm sure you.
Gotta do that
Yeah, we got to
one.
do that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also, so I always end these episodes with a pick from this book that I'm reading, The Best Film You've Never Seen.
Hmm.
And as I was looking through the table of contents this past week when I watched Kevin's picks, there was one title only that would have worked. I don't
Mm.
know if you've seen this movie.
Let's see.
Um but it's called Trouble in Paradise.
I know of it. I haven't seen it. I haven't
Okay.
seen it now.
It's from 1932,
Uh-huh.
Ernest Lubitsch.
Oh gosh, it's an Ernst
And
Lubitsch film. I love that guy.
yes,
Jeez, why did I
I
not?
know. I see. I knew it. And this is like my favorite of his. I've seen
Really?
a couple of his.
Hmm.
Yes, and this is by far the best. It's like
Wow.
under 90 minutes. It's crisp. It's like quick. You can get it done, and it is delightful, Kevin.
I'm writing that down.
Write it down
Writing that down. Trouble
as
in
as
Paradise.
well as all of you. Trouble in Paradise.
Okay.
It is older, but it somehow feels very kind of scandalous,
Does
actually.
it?
It does. There's a lot of like sultry stuff going on, and it surprised
Ooh.
me in a lot of ways. Peter Bogdanovich is the director that he interviewed that recommended that as his hidden gem.
Oh, okay.
Um, and he called this movie the high point of sophisticated comedy, as light as a souffle.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
I
So
you got me. Okay. I'm gonna add it
I
to the
hope
watch
that
list.
convinces everyone.
Yes, that should
Yeah.
convince everyone. And Ernst Lubitsch is also one of my favorite directors. You know, if you're a fan of Shop Around the Corner or
Oh, of
To
course.
Be or Not to Be, of course, is one, or Ninochka. Yeah,
Oh, yes, I've seen
yeah,
that
yeah,
actually.
yeah. I need to revisit that one. That's a big one that I need to, you know.
That one I actually saw. My friend Joel and I used to do a monthly watch list together, and he picked Ninochka, and then we decided to do Trouble in Paradise together as a result of enjoying that one, and
Really,
then that ended up being so much better. But they're both very
they're both
good.
very good.
But
Yeah.
to me, Trouble in Paradise is really a treat.
Oh gosh. And also, if anyone's a fan of Billy Wilder, which I'm sure plenty are, I mean, Lubitsch was his mentor. So if you want to
Correct.
see, the base or the foundation of what Wilder has taken and maybe streamlined and perfected, you need to go watch something from Ernst. It's oof, like just great. Yeah.
Well, and Shop Around the Corner, especially. I'd
Yeah,
forgotten
it's my
that,
big
Jim.
favorite, big favorite of mine, and Chris's
Yeah.
favorite as well.
Christopher's, I
Yeah.
was about to
And I
say.
got Ben
And
into that
it's a
one
great
too.
Christmas movie.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, yeah. Ben loves that
Yeah.
movie now too. Yeah, he wants to make that an annual Christmas watch. Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, just gosh, all those movies. You've got a
all
treasure trove of
all the good
all the
movies.
good movies.
This is
Yeah.
my most like retrospective episode that I've ever done,
You
and
think?
we're just like name dropping all this stuff.
No, we can keep
It's
going.
like, yeah, Shop Around the Corner,
Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life,
Yeah.
perfect Christmas films, and they're both Jimmy Stewart.
Yep. Yep. That's
But
right.
that one kind of gets not as much recognition either. I
hmm
feel
Yeah,
as it
unfortunately
should.
not. Yeah, it really
Mm.
should because people are what's the not well, not really a remake. You've Got Mail
You've Got Mail.
takes a lot of points from that movie.
Mm.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Watch Shop Around the Corner. Yeah,
Watch Shop Around the
watch
Corner.
that one, people.
Yeah.
hmm
And Sleepless in Seattle was the remake of An Affair to
Oh,
Remember. Did you know
I
that?
still don't know. See, I need to watch that one too.
Mm.
I think you actually told me that a while back, but
I think I did.
yeah,
Not exactly a remake in the Leo McCarey sense.
yeah,
Not at all
yeah.
that, because it's modernized, but like it's sort of like You've Got Mail, where it borrows from that film heavily. I mean, there's even the place that Meg Ryan works in You've Got Mail is called Shop Around the
That's
Corner,
right.
the bookstore.
That's right.
So
Yeah, very
they're not really
heavy-handed.
hiding it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Sleepless in Seattle, they actually watch An Affair to Remember and reference the movie in the movie. So
Wow. Wow. Look at that. See where
yeah,
film's going. It's
I
just making
know.
all these references to previous previous films.
Yeah, and these were like in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I mean, yeah. So definitely check those out.
Yeah,
Trouble in Paradise, Love Affair, and Hollywood
that's
Canteen.
right. That's right.
Kevin, it was a pleasure, an
Amy,
absolute pleasure
likewise.
to have you
I'd
on.
love to be back again if
Good.
you need me.
y- Yes, if we need you to infuse
Yes.
some old Hollywood back into Watch This List, I'll
Yes.
give you a call.
Oh, please do. All right, Amy. That was
We'll
fun.
we'll see you at the movies.